Your engineering resume is getting rejected in under 10 seconds. And it's not because you're not qualified. It's because you're making these three critical mistakes that every engineering student makes. So if you're an engineering student looking for your first internship, or if you're a new grad student looking for your first jobs, this video is for you. I'm going to show you the exact engineering resume format that helps students find their first internship or jobs. And the best part is we're not using any fancy design. We're not trying to outsmart the mythical AI screening system. We're going simple, clean, and effective. First, let's talk about what really happening with your resume. When you submit an application, usually the company have like an ATS screening system for your resume. They're trying to find the most match resume to the keywords they're looking for. Once you pass that system, the recruiter will have on average about 6 to 10 seconds to look at your resume. 6 seconds. They can't even read your name in 6 seconds. And the truth is, your resume is also competing with other engineer who have so much more experience than you, or an engineer who knows someone at the company. So your resume need to nail these three things. First is you need to gain the necessary experience, even as a student. Second is you need to use the task, action, and result format on your resume. And third, you need to tailor your resume to each application. Okay, now let's talk about the first thing, gaining the necessary experience. But I don't have any experience because I'm a student. I used to say these things too, trust me. But here's the truth, you have more experience than you think. And there are tons of ways to help you build relevant experience right now. Some of the academic experience that can put on your resume, things like your senior capstone projects, that can be a real engineering experience. Things like group project where you help build something tangible, a research project that you did for a class or with your professor, and your independent study projects. All these things you need to keep track of, you need to document your work, and definitely will put that on your resume. And you can also build experience outside of your classroom. Personal projects are gold when it comes to finding an internship or your first job. You can start by building something like a simple web app or an Arduino project. You can start with analyzing some data or design and pretty print something. Second, you can find projects on GitHub and contribute to the open source of information. Third is you can try freelancing work. You can start by emailing or calling your local businesses and see if they need any small technical problem that you can help with. You can volunteer for a nonprofit that need technical helps. And lastly, you can join a competitive design team on campus to help you build some design experience. The key question is, for everything that you do, ask yourself, what problem did I solve and what was the result? Companies want to see you take initiative even when you're a student and you start building outside of the class assignment. Now that you gather all of your experience, how do you write them? This is where most of the students messed up. They often write the job description instead of the achievement. So here are the wrong way of writing your experience on your resume. You write something like responsible for designing mechanical component using CAD software. So what's wrong about the sentence is they don't know what CAD software you use, and they only know that you're responsible for this task. They don't know what was the result. So the right way to write using the TAR format is design and optimize gear reduction system using SolidWorks, reducing manufacturing costs by 15% while improving torque efficiency by 22%. And TAR stand for task, action, and result. So for task, answer these questions. What problem did you solve? For action, you need to answer the question of what specifically did you do? And lastly, for result, you need to answer what measurable impact did you achieve? So let me break this down to a real example. For example, for an academic project, for task, senior design project require improving efficiency of a heat exchanger. For action, this is where what you did come in. Redesign the fin geometry using ANSYS simulation and fabrication prototype. And the result is increased heat exchanger rate by 18% while reducing material usage by 12%. So put it all together, the TAR format can be something along the line of redesigning heat exchanger fin geometry using ANSYS simulation, increasing heat exchanger rate by 18% while reducing material usage by 12%. Another example for a personal project, the task can be you wanted to build an automated system for your garage door. For action, you design and fabricate Arduino controlled mechanism with sensors. And the result was reduced door opening time by 3 seconds and adding safety feature. So put it all together, the TAR format can sound something like design Arduino control garage door automation system with proximity sensor reducing opening time by 40% and implementing fail-safe mechanism. So the magic here, as you can see, is in the number. You always quantify your result. Answer how many users did you help, what percentage of improvement did your action produce, how much time was saved, what was the efficient, and what was the scale. So if you don't have an exact number, you can use your best engineering judgment to estimate a reasonable amount. For example, if you say approximately 50 plus user, it's way better than no numbers at all. Okay, the third thing that we talk about is we need to tailor our resume to the job application. And here are where most people get pretty lazy, even I am. But the difference is between getting interviews and getting ignored by the recruiter. So, step one is you need to read the job description carefully. Look for required programming languages or like a CAD software that they wanted their applicant to have. You can look for a specific technology that was mentioned in the job description, and you can highlight the key skill that they require, that they emphasize, and look for company value and mission alignment. Step two is you need to mirror their language. So if they say full stack development, don't write web developer. If they want problem solving skill, show an example of the problem that you solve. The third step is you need to reorder your bullet points. Put the most relevant experience first, lead with skill that they care about. For example, a job posting mentioned Python, machine learning, data analysis. Your original bullet was build web application using JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and Python for data processing. You can tailor this version to something like develop Python-based data processing system for web application, implementing machine learning algorithm for the user behavior analysis. So we have the same project, but it's just different emphasis. And this usually take like 5 minutes per application, but it definitely will increase your callback rate. Now let's talk about the format of the resume. I have on the screen right here is the resume template that I would recommend any engineering student to use to look for internship and their first jobs. And on the right side is just an example of the resume template over here. So now let's quickly go over the structure of the resume. First, you should definitely list your first and your last name at the top, bold it if possible, and make it bigger than the rest of the resume. You should also list your email, preferably your university email, just to keep it professional, or any of your professional email that you use to apply for your jobs. Please don't use any email that includes your nicknames in there. That's not very professional. It will leave like a really bad impression to the recruiter. Also list your phone number. I have recruiter call me on my phone for just like a quick phone interview or a screening interview. So having your phone number there definitely help. You can also list your LinkedIn account or your GitHub account depending on your reference. I like to align my emails and my phone number on the right side of the resume. You can also center them on your name as well. The next section is the summary section. In this section, it should only be around 2 to 3 sentences, maximum 2 or 3 lines. It does not need to be a paragraph, and it should list your engineering major and what you're passionate about and what you bring to the table. This is a section that you can match the keywords in the job description to your skill. So notice keywords like analytical skill, growth mindset, strong work ethic, or something along the lines of great communication or teamwork, things like that. Next, you have your education section. I like to put it on top because you're a student, you don't have a lot of working experience. You can highlight your education before your work experience. But if you have a lot of work experience, I would recommend having your education below your work experience section. Okay, so for your education, you should briefly state your degree, when you expected to graduate, and your university name, city, and state, and your GPA. The next section is your working experience. Here you can list your internship that you have, your part-time jobs, any part-time jobs that you have during your time in school. Start with the job title and the company names. And one thing to note is you should list the most relevant jobs experience first and your start date and to present. Remember, another thing to note is you need to list at least three bullet points stating your task, your action, and the result. And remember to quantify your result. So for example, this person's resume, they are working as an engineering tutor at University of Texas A&M. They listed 3 bullet points of their tasks and their action, and they quantified the result. For example, they're providing tutor service for more than 25 students per semester. They also improving the average exam score by 18%. They also help increase the student comprehension rate by 95%. Again, if you have more than one job, you can list your second job below your most recent jobs. Follow the same format. The next section is your projects. This is where you list your senior design projects if you have one. Any personal project that you worked on during your free time that will highlight your technical skill. One thing to note for the work experience and the project section is that you should use a very powerful verb to describe your action. Things like collaborate, perform, design, assistant, simulate, build, etc. You can find a list with a quick Google search, or you can use ChatGPT to come up with a good verb for your action. Again, on the project section, you should list at least 3 duties that you have and what the impact you have on the project. And remember to always quantify your impact. Next is the technical skills section. In this section, you should list all of the software that you ever used, all the hardware that you have used during your time in college. You should list them and group them in category. For example, start with the most relevant technical skill to the job's description and followed by something that can support your work. I did not categorize them in this example right here, but remember to categorize them if you can. The next 2 section is optional. You can list any certification that you acquire during your time in college. For example, any certification that you have during your time in college. If you ever take an FE exam, you can list it here. If you have a welding certification, you can list it here. Remember, it just needs to be relevant to the job that you apply for. You can also list any publication that you have, any awards that you have, just to give you a leg up during the screening process. Last but not least, the leadership and activities section. If you're involved in any organization on campus that is relevant to your jobs, you can list it here. For example, this person is a mechanical engineer and he or she also joined an organization, ASME. So they list it here. It also shows the recruiter that they involve outside of the classroom. They work on their soft skill, things like working in team, communication. It highlights your soft skill. And it also shows that you take initiative and do something outside of just going to school. Okay, now let's talk about the overall formatting of the resume. A couple things to note is you should definitely keep your resume in 1 page because you're a student, you don't have that much experience. If you have a lot of experience, you can have your resume in maximum of 2 pages, but I would recommend having a project portfolio to go with your resume instead of extending your resume in 2 pages. Another thing to keep in mind is you should use a standardized font so it's easier to read and it's not something too fancy. Another thing is you need to keep the format very consistency throughout the resume. I'm talking about the size of the word need to be similar. If you bold a title section, you should bold every single title section. If you bold the company names, you should bold every other company name as well. And if you put your job title in italics, you should keep it consistent throughout your resume. Another thing to note is you should leave some blank space between each section. It's just easier to read that way. And last but not least, remember to save a PDF when you submit your application. The goal here is to make everything as easy as possible for the recruiter to read and to scan through and to find what they're looking for. Before we wrap this up, here are some of the biggest mistakes that I see students make when it comes to drafting your resume. Mistake number one is they're using an objective statement that nobody cares about. And to be honest, the company, the recruiter only care about what you can bring to the table, what you can do for them, and they honestly don't care about your backstory. So instead of using an objective statement, replace it with a summary statement that state what you're passionate about and what you can bring to the table. Mistake number two is they listed all of the technology that they ever have their hands on. Focus on what relevant and leave out the non-relevance and focusing on what you're actually good at. Mistake number three, typo and grammatic errors. You should definitely have at least 3 people to look at your resume. You can also upload your resume to ChatGPT to prove reading them before you finalize the resume. Mistake number 4 is they approach it with a one-size-fits-all resume to every single application. Again, you should definitely tailor your resume to each job application. It takes a little bit longer, but it definitely increases your chance of callback. Your resume is your first impression, so make it count. Start by implementing these changes today, and I will guarantee that you will get more interview callbacks in your inbox. Comment down below, tell me what you're struggling with when it comes to drafting your resume. I have the resume template for a newly grad student who looking for their first job or for internship, and I also have a resume template for people who have 1 to 3 working experience. So if you want that, sign up for my newsletter. I will send that your way. And before you go, check out this video where I talk about engineering salary based on the region and based on your engineering major. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.